When I was a young man, I sat in a general conference in this tabernacle and heard President Heber J. Grant declare that he was grateful above all else for the testimony which he had of this, the work of God. I am now older than President Grant was when I heard him say those words. I now know how he felt. I too feel that of all things the most precious is the conviction I have in my heart of the truth and divinity of this sacred work. I thank the Lord for the knowledge he has given me that Joseph Smith was a prophet of the living God. I have spoken before of the experience I had as a 12-year-old boy, a newly ordained deacon. With my father, I went to our stake priesthood meeting. He sat on the stand as a member of the stake presidency, and I sat on the back row of the chapel. The men of that large congregation stood and sang, "Praise to the man who communed with Jehovah. Jesus anointed that prophet and seer, blessed to open the last dispensation. Kings shall extol him and nations revere." As I heard them sing that hymn with power and conviction, there came into my heart a witness of the divine calling of the boy Joseph. And I am grateful that the Lord has sustained that witness through more than 70 years since then. I am happy that my faith has not been shaken by the writings of critics who never seem to recognize that knowledge of things divine comes by the power of the Spirit and not of the wisdom of men. I commend to all of these words of George Santayana, distinguished longtime professor at Harvard. O world, thou choosest not the better part. It is not wisdom to be only wise and on the inward vision close the eyes, but it is wisdom to believe the heart. I thank my Father in heaven for the testimony I have of the reality of the first vision. I have stood among the trees where Joseph knelt as a boy and heard the whisperings of the Spirit that it happened as he said it happened. I have read the words of critics who from 1820 until now have tried to destroy the validity of that account. They've made much of the fact that there were several versions and that the account as we now have it was not written until 1838. So what? I find security for my faith in the simplicity of his narrative, in its lack of argument, in its straightforward reasonableness, and in the fact that he sealed his testimony with his life's blood. Could there have been a stronger endorsement? Is it strange that James, writing anciently, would invite all who lacked wisdom to ask of God in faith? Is it strange that such prayer would receive an answer? I thank the Lord for the faith to believe that the answer to that prayer came with a glorious manifestation of the eternal Father and his beloved Son to part the curtain after centuries of darkness and open a new and promised and final dispensation of the gospel. Did it happen? I have no doubt of it. Was it not time, as a great age of enlightenment began to dawn upon the world, that these, the Father and the Son, should reveal themselves to show their form and power and living reality, and thus declare once and for all the true nature of deity? I thank the Almighty for my testimony of the Book of Mormon, this wonderful companion to the Holy Bible. It is strange to me that unbelieving critics must still go back to the old allegations that Joseph Smith wrote the book out of ideas gained from Ethan Smith's view of the Hebrews and Solomon Spaulding's manuscript. To compare the Book of Mormon with these is like comparing a man to a horse. It is true they both walk. But beyond this, there is little similarity. The test of the book is in its reading. I speak as one who has read it again and again and has tasted of its beauty and depth and power. Could Joseph Smith, I ask you, the young man reared in rural New York largely without schooling, have dictated in so short a time a volume so complex in its nature and yet so harmonious in its whole, with so large a cast of characters and so extensive in its scope? Could he of his own abilities have created the language, the thought, the moving inspiration that has caused millions over the earth to read and say, "It is true"?